Alright, this is crazy because Adam Silver genuinely believed he was doing the safe route in this situation. The communications executive was only answering some queries regarding the future of the WNBA. Rather, he essentially reaffirmed what everyone has been saying all season long, that the league is in disarray behind the scenes and that its administrators are clueless about how to deal with the conflict that erupts between players, management, and supporters. The NBA commissioner's recent remarks on WNBA player Caitlin Clark sparked more than simply discussion. They started a full-fledged controversy that is players sneering at their own league office and fans wondering if those in authority truly comprehend what's going on. Adam Silver is obviously already hating himself for saying anything at all, based on how quickly the response went viral on social media. The problem is that every time you think the WNBA drama is finally subsiding, a suit-wearing individual approaches and adds petrol directly to the flames. Kathy Angelberg didn't capture all the smoke this time. It was her supervisor, who ought to be above all of this mayhem. And wow, now let me be clear before we get started. Adam Silver didn't enter the NBC interview with the intention of inciting conflict. He most likely believed he was responding in a controlled and polite manner that would defuse the situation and demonstrate to everyone that the leadership had everything under control. However, the internet did not hold back when he stated, "Yeah, that clip spread faster than A.G. Wilson sprinting to the free throw line. To be sure you know precisely what happened, let's go back in time for a moment." Silver sat down for what was expected to be a dull corporate presentation that was safe for public relations. You know, the sort where they use terms like leadership, synergy, growth, and trajectory. All that meaningless nonsense that sounds nice. However, things quickly took a turn for the worst when he began discussing Caitlin Clark and the WNBA's present situation. In essence, he stated that the league's problems are interpersonal in nature rather than merely financial or economic. And that could seem innocuous at first, such as, "Oh, he's just saying people need to communicate better." He just informed the world that the WNBA is broken from the inside out, but when you really consider what it implies. Translation: the NBA commissioner recently stated out on national television that the players and league officials cannot tolerate one another, and now everyone is aware of this, and it's at the worst possible time. This interview wasn't conducted in a vacuum, which makes it even more bizarre. Nafisa Collier is currently tearing into Kathy Angelberg on live television for her tone-deaf remarks that Caitlin Clark should be thankful for off-court money during the finals. Players are publicly discussing lockouts and threatening to skip the upcoming season if nothing changes. Even when she isn't playing, Caitlin Clark's name is brought up in every discussion. Adam Silver then intervenes, sounding like a perplexed dad attempting to mediate a dispute between children he has never met. He most likely sincerely believed he was assisting. He believed that by admitting the conflict, he would demonstrate to everyone that the leadership is attentive and seeking answers. Rather, he proved what every player has been saying: the NBA views women's basketball as a side project that they don't fully comprehend or value. However, as it becomes worse the more you think about it, let's truly dissect what he said. In an attempt to flatter Kathy Angelberg, Silver said that she had overseen unprecedented expansion, which, on paper, sounds fantastic. However, he acknowledged in the very next sentence that there is a significant gap between the players and the leadership. Adam, which is it? Is this historic turmoil, or is it historic growth? Because based on what we've all seen this season, the WNBA isn't expanding in a sustainable or healthy manner. It's blowing up, and not in a positive sense. It resembles a pressure cooker that has been neglected for too long and is on the verge of blowing. Between Nafi Sakir's outspoken criticism of the commissioner for treating Caitlin disrespectfully, fans are yelling about biased refereeing and league favoritism, while players are openly threatening a lockout over contract talks. This isn't progress. This is a serious situation. The worst thing about Silver's remarks was that they gave the impression that he no longer even trusted Kathy Angelberg. He described the current state of affairs as regrettable, and if you're familiar with business jargon, you realize that this is a complete catastrophe, and we're attempting to remain calm. He didn't stop there either. He even went so far as to claim that the league's problems were personal, which is really a tactful, media-trained way of expressing that everyone behind the scenes despises one another and is incapable of cooperating. Tell me now, isn't that a complete and utter catastrophe that was just shown on live television? This is an important part, this is an important time with the CBA negotiations, the players, when you look at leagues around the world, it is about caring for your athletes, caring for the players. And that's just not the feelings right now. And I think everyone is kind of they rallied around Fee because, one, that was a powerful statement to make. And obviously it puts pressure on Kathy and put pressure on the leadership. But, it was a lot. It was a heavy hitter, right, Oz? However, Adam Silver's discussion of ratings and viewing figures was the actual bomb, the moment that truly ignited the internet. He asserted that everything is ideal, the WNBA is at an all-time high, and everyone ought to be celebrating the league's historic moment. However, during that same week, rumors began to circulate that the finals viewership figures appeared, to put it mildly, whimsical at best and wholly contrived at worst. The company that tracks TV ratings, Nielsen, abruptly and conveniently changed how they count out-of-home viewing. This meant that they began including pub TVs, hotel lobbies, airport screens, and pretty much any random screen that just so happens to have the game on. People with true media literacy began to notice this, and for the first time in WNBA history, all of that was mysteriously included into the 2025 ratings. Technically speaking, the numbers appear to be significantly higher than in previous years, but are actual fans actively watching a league? Or did someone in the league office simply decide to move the goalposts and alter the measurement system to make everything appear better than it actually is? Because everyone who is paying attention perceives it that way. Online fans weren't buying it at all. Not for a moment. These ratings look faker than the Aces foul calls, which honestly is savage but also kind of accurate, was one remark that went viral. A different observation stated, they're cooking the stats to bury Caitlyn's impact and pretend the league doesn't need her. And, to be honest, it might be the true cause of Adam Silver's remarks' disastrous backlash. Since none of these supposedly unprecedented ratings ever occurred without Caitlyn Clark, let's be brutally honest for a moment. For a period, the narrative is over. From the first game of the season, she carried the whole league on her shoulders. Arenas were sold out wherever she visited, drew in millions of new viewers who had never seen women's basketball before, and it dominated ESPN News for months. Additionally, it is because of her that casual sports audiences were initially introduced to Kathy Engelberg. Furthermore, the league is already behaving as though they no longer require Caitlyn now that she is hurt and on the sidelines, as if her influence was exaggerated and they could continue this pace in her absence. Yes, it is what triggered everyone, as it simultaneously seems disrespectful and denial-based. The more Silver talked about collective bargaining agreements, relationship development, and other corporate jargon, the more it sounded like he was covering for Kathy Engelbert's shortcomings, while also acting as though Caitlyn Clark's star power and fame don't really matter to the league's success. Silver attempted to sound diplomatic and balanced, like a calm mediator, simply acknowledging both sides. Additionally, you are fully aware of how the internet functions. In a matter of hours, on Twitter, Adam Silver's remorse was trending. He was being criticized for treating the WNBA as a side business that he only gives attention to certain public relations crises. Others just stated that he was attempting to keep Kathy's employment safe since it would reflect poorly on him if she were to burn down. Because, as you may recall, Adam Silver is directly in charge of Kathy Engelbert. Technically, he is her boss. Additionally, it's never a good indication when your manager has to publicly defend you in interviews on national television. This indicates that things are far worse than they appear. First of all, because the WNBA wants to forbid us to make a lot of more money than we're ever going to make here, what it seems like in other leagues. So it's very personal. People have families, this is our job. We make more money in China, Russia, Turkey, than here. So it is very personal, and I don't think why it shouldn't become personal. The players themselves, however, are growing increasingly impatient with everything. By stating unequivocally that players won't be attending the upcoming season unless they receive the compensation, respect, and working conditions they truly deserve, Sophie Cunningham has already alluded to a possible lockout. You understand what it implies, don't you? We could not even have a 2026 WNBA season if these CBA talks don't work out and the league management continues to play games and brush aside players' concerns. And it all comes down to leadership, or more precisely, the total absence of effective top-level leadership. Kathy Angelberg almost ever shows up except to make hurtful remarks that exacerbate the situation. Adam Silver is out there doing perplexing, incongruous interviews that reveal more issues than they resolve. Additionally, the athletes are really interacting with fans and one another through podcast appearances and Instagram stories, like a high school group chat rather than a league for professional sports. Leadership is not what this is. With business branding thrown on top, this is complete anarchy. Fans and members of the media began directly contrasting Adam Silver's treatment of NBA players with that of WNBA players, which made matters worse. Furthermore, the disparity is glaring and, to be honest, quite devastating. When Candace Parker said on her show that Adam personally texted her after she retired, she was essentially confirming this. He sent her Christmas presents and congrats after she signed her huge broadcast contract with TNT, even after she gave birth. Do you know who didn't get in touch at any of those significant life events? The actual WNBA commissioner is Kathy Engelbert. Candace didn't mince words when she spoke. Adam Silver shows me more affection and one-on-one time than my own commissioner does. And since it encapsulated the main issue so well, that one statement completely destroyed WNBA Twitter. This goes beyond money, TV contracts, or group bargaining. It has to do with fundamental human respect and connection. The players don't think they are important. They don't think they're heard. Furthermore, they do not believe that the leadership of their own league genuinely cares about them as individuals. Adam Silver's remarks, which were meant to resolve the conflict, unintentionally brought that discrepancy to light even more. By publicly acknowledging the existence of significant marital problems, he aimed to reassure everyone and demonstrate that progress is being made. The players don't trust the league office, and the league administration doesn't know how to communicate with the players. He essentially stated out loud on national television. That cannot be turned into a nice headline by PR, particularly not when Caitlin Clark, the biggest celebrity in the entire sport, gets caught in the midst of all this complete bullshit.